In the sprawling concrete jungle of New York City, 5 families carved out empires built on shadows and secrets. Among them, one stands out not for its age, but for its explosive, dramatic, and often self-destructive history. This is the story of the Colombo crime family, the youngest and most volatile of New York's infamous 5 families. Their tale is one of ambition, rebellion, and a relentless struggle for survival, a story written in blood on the streets of Brooklyn. Our story begins in the early 20th century, as waves of immigrants from Sicily and southern Italy sought a new life in America. They brought with them hopes, dreams, and a deeply ingrained code of honor, loyalty, and silence, omerta. In the crowded neighborhoods of New York, these codes became the bedrock for what would grow into the American Mafia. From these humble and often harsh beginnings, a powerful organization would emerge, initially led by a man whose name would become synonymous with ruthless control: Joseph Profaci. Profaci wasn't just a gangster. He was a businessman, albeit a brutal one. Known as the Olive Oil King for his legitimate import business, he ran his criminal enterprises with the same shrewdness. From loan sharking and racketeering to illegal gambling and extortion, Profaci's influence spread across Brooklyn and parts of Manhattan. He demanded absolute loyalty and a share of everyone's earnings, a tribute that many of his men saw as nothing more than extortion from their own boss. For nearly 2 decades, he ruled with an iron fist, crushing any hint of dissent. But even the strongest empires can crack from within. By the early 1960s, the simmering resentment within Profaci's ranks finally boiled over. A group of his top lieutenants, led by the charismatic Gallo brothers Larry, Albert Kid Blast, and the notoriously flamboyant Crazy Joe Gallo, decided they'd had enough of Profaci's greed. They demanded a fairer share of the profits and more respect. Profaci, a traditionalist who saw this as a direct challenge to his authority, refused. The result was the First Colombo War, a bloody internal conflict that tore the family apart. The streets of Brooklyn became a battleground. Gunfights, kidnappings, and murders became commonplace as the 2 factions vied for control. While Profaci ultimately survived the war and retained his position until his death from cancer in 1962, the family was left deeply scarred and divided. The seeds of internal strife had been sown, and they would continue to sprout for decades to come. After Profaci's death and a brief period of instability, the family's leadership passed to a man who would not only give the family its name, but would also change the face of the Mafia forever: Joseph Colombo. Colombo was a different kind of boss. He was young, charismatic, and understood the power of public perception. Instead of hiding in the shadows like his predecessors, Colombo stepped directly into the spotlight. In 1970, he founded the Italian-American Civil Rights League, a brilliant and audacious move. He organized massive rallies, gave press conferences, and publicly protested what he claimed was FBI harassment of Italian Americans. For a time, it worked. Colombo became a folk hero to some, a celebrity mobster who charmed the media and challenged the establishment. He even managed to get the word Mafia removed from the script of the film The Godfather. He was powerful, visible, and seemingly untouchable. But in the world of organized crime, a high profile is a double-edged sword. The other Mafia bosses were appalled. A boss's job was to make money quietly, not to lead parades. Colombo's flamboyant style broke every unwritten rule. He was drawing too much attention, not just to himself, but to everyone. The inevitable backlash came on June 28, 1971, at the second major Italian-American Civil Rights League rally in Columbus Circle, Manhattan, in front of thousands of supporters and news cameras. A gunman disguised as a press photographer approached Colombo and shot him 3 times at point-blank range. The assassin was immediately killed by Colombo's bodyguards. The hit didn't kill Joseph Colombo, but it might as well have. The bullets left him in a persistent vegetative state, permanently removed from power. He would linger in this state for 7 years before finally passing away. The charismatic boss who brought the family into the public eye was silenced forever, and his incapacitation plunged the family back into the darkness of a violent power vacuum. The fallout from Colombo's shooting was immediate and chaotic. The family was once again split. Many believe the Gallo crew, still bitter from the First War, was responsible for the hit, possibly with the backing of other rival families fed up with Colombo's publicity stunts. This suspicion ignited the Second Colombo War, a conflict even more vicious and prolonged than the first. For the next several years, the factions battled for supremacy. A key moment came in April 1972 when Crazy Joe Gallo was gunned down while celebrating his birthday at a restaurant in Little Italy. His murder was a clear act of revenge, but it didn't end the violence. The war raged on, leaving a trail of bodies and further weakening the family structure. For the next 2 decades, the Colombo family was defined by this instability. Leadership became a revolving door of bosses who rose to power only to be taken down by a rival, bullet, or a prosecutor's indictment. The family was led by a series of acting bosses and ruling panels, but true stability was impossible to achieve. One of the most significant figures to emerge during this period was Carmine the Snake Persico, a cunning and ruthless operator who had been a key player since the Profaci days. Persico managed to seize control of the family in the 1980s. But even his reign was plagued by turmoil. He ended up ruling the family from behind bars after being convicted in the landmark Mafia commission trial of 1986. Even from prison, Persico's grip was tight, but it wasn't absolute. His insistence on controlling the family from his cell led to yet another devastating internal conflict in the early 1990s, the Third Colombo War. This time, the war pitted Persico's loyalists against a faction led by acting boss Victor Little Vic Orena, who felt Persico was no longer fit to rule from prison. The conflict was brutal, with at least a dozen murders attributed to the infighting. It was a war fought not just on the streets but also in the court of Mafia opinion. Ultimately, the Persico faction won, but at a tremendous cost. The war decimated the family's ranks, attracted massive law enforcement attention, and left the organization a shadow of its former self. The FBI and prosecutors had a field day, using the chaos to turn members into informants and secure dozens of convictions. Entering the 21st century, the Colombo family faced an entirely new landscape. Decades of internal warfare, combined with relentless pressure from law enforcement using powerful tools like the RICO Act, had taken a severe toll. The family's power and influence were significantly diminished. Many of its traditional rackets, like labor union control and large-scale extortion, were dismantled. The code of silence omerta was shattered as high-ranking members, including acting boss Alphonse Ali Boy Persico and underboss John Jackie DeRoss, became government witnesses to save themselves from life sentences. Today, the Colombo crime family is a mere fraction of what it once was. It's smaller, less organized, and forced to operate in the deepest shadows to avoid detection. Yet, it endures. It has proven to be remarkably resilient, a testament to the deep-rooted nature of organized crime. They have adapted, shifting to smaller-scale operations like loan sharking, illegal gambling, and cybercrime. They are a ghost of their former empire, but a ghost that still haunts the city. The story of the Colombo family serves as a powerful cautionary tale about the corrosive nature of power, ambition, and betrayal. It shows how an organization built on loyalty can be utterly destroyed by it, and how the pursuit of control often leads to self-destruction. Their bloody history is a reminder that in the world they inhabit, alliances are temporary, enemies are everywhere, and the only constant is the struggle for survival. Thank you so much for joining me on this deep dive into one of America's most turbulent crime families. If you found this story fascinating, please hit that like button, and consider subscribing to our channel for more tales from the hidden corners of history. We'd love to hear your thoughts in the comments below. See you next time.